What's up, everybody? Welcome back to episode 3 of the 585 Sports Podcast, 585 Take Sports Podcast. I'm glad to be joined by Cole Blazer once again. It's just the two of us. Yes, Will Tehan will be back soon. Couple quick things for you guys. Yes, I do have the Luke Cornett picture. We'll get to his epic block later. And I got the St. John's shirt on. Not only did they land Tunde Yesufu yesterday in the transfer portal, or a couple days ago, but Julian Champagny, what a performance he had. Former St. John's player. So we have a loaded slate for you guys. We're going to first get to the Game 7 reactions. We'll give you our thoughts and our takeaways. We'll give you a little NBA Finals preview, and then we have one last stand on it. Yes, I am up again, and it's going to be a good one for you guys. Cole, I don't know about you, but I'm very, very excited to talk about yesterday's game.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm super pumped that the Spurs came out on top.
All right, so with that being said, we'll kick it off. I want to hear your takeaways first before I get into any of mine. What was your biggest takeaway from the game last night?
It was shocking to me, honestly. I mean, straight up, Spurs were the better team. They deserved to win that series. For as much slack as we have given the refs this series, you got to give them their flowers when they deserve it. Last game was unbelievable the way they called it. They let the boys play, and the better team last night came out on top, which I thought was awesome to see. So, but it was shocking. I mean, Thunder have been the best team in the NBA for 2 years straight, and the last 2 games straight, they've just been punked, and they really didn't look like they had anything to match up against it. I'm sure the Jalen Williams being out and AJ Mitchell definitely did not help. I mean, SGA looks like he needs a second-man punch. He played unbelievable, don't get me wrong. He didn't get the foul calls, and he still had 35, shooting very efficiently. However, you could see coming down to the stretch after playing, 43, 45 minutes, he was gassed and he needed a second man, which he definitely did not get from Chet, who, from everything I've seen, just cannot play against Wemby. I know Wemby's kind of creating this little rivalry against him, and everyone's saying, oh, Chet doesn't even care. Well, he probably should start caring because it looks bad on him when you put up, 4 points last night, attempting under 5 field goals the whole game, and that was the biggest outlier to me. Chet's either going to have to step it up or he may be getting moved soon.
Yeah, so I say we talk about the game itself a little bit more, and then we can get into the Chet Holmgren situation, because I have kind of a whole rant for what I think is going to go on there and just kind of what I saw from that series. But starting it off, I thought that this win last night proved to me that the Spurs are more than a one-man team, and especially games 6 and 7. It felt like it was a little bit too much of the Wembanyama glaze, if you will, where it was just all Wembanyama and these other guys weren't doing anything. And he had a good game. He was their leading scorer yesterday, but they had 7 guys in double figures. We saw Keldon Johnson hit a couple big threes late in the game, back-to-back, when it was kind of on a shot-making display between the two teams. We saw De'Aaron Fox play probably his best game of the series, and even though he didn't have a great series, the story after 2 games was the fact that Stephon Castle had 20 turnovers, the most ever in a 2-game stretch. And so De'Aaron Fox coming back, a true point guard who was able to just take care of the ball and take some of the pressure off of Harper. And Castle, I think, kind of freed them up a little bit to play their own game. In taking a look at games 1 and 4, Wembanyama was the guy. It felt like the Spurs won those games because he was the Superman, the best player in the NBA that we think maybe he isn't quite yet, but he will get to that. He felt like that in games 1 and 4. And in games 6 and 7, it felt like a much more balanced team. It felt like a team that had 3 back-to-back-to-back top 5 NBA lottery picks on the team. Obviously, that will never be the case anymore with the new draft lottery rules. But between Dylan Harper, between Stephon Castle, between Wemby, and then they got really good contributions from other guys as well. And it felt like more of a team to me, where I sort of questioned the Spurs. I thought that's why the Thunder were going to win. I'm like, Wemby's amazing, but he can't be Superman 4 games out of 7 playing every other day, with the way that he uses up his body, and he's just so he's just getting hacked by Isaiah Hartenstein constantly. It's taking a toll on him. And so his teammates were really there for him. He was still amazing in the last 2 games, but that was a real team effort from the Spurs, and that was what was most impressive to me. And we can't fail to mention the guy behind me. I mean, top 2 chase down blocks of all time. It's probably Cornett last night, and then I might have to bump LeBron to number 2 after seeing that Cornett block. Obviously, I'm joking, but that was one of the biggest plays. Wemby got his 5th foul, went to the bench. Cornett comes in, It was a 6 point lead. Thunder get a turnover. I I don't want to take any credit away from Cornette. I don't exactly know what Hartenstein's plan was, like a 7 foot center running from half court to the hoop on a fast break. A little questionable to me, but that would have cut it to a 4 point game. Instead, they get the block, come up with the loose ball, go down. I think Stephon Castle maybe got a bucket to push it back to 8. So that was like that point where it kind of felt like, man, the Spurs are really going to pull this off.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. We saw Luke Cornett play 2 minutes a lot in that second half, and those were some of the best 2 minutes he could have possibly given to the Spurs team. So, congrats to him. He definitely deserved all the flowers on that one. And then, yeah, I mean, just an unbelievably very well coached game. We kind of saw once again SGA. He wasn't really getting that double team until he came inside. They know he can shoot the three, but this series he was very inefficient, and they kind of said, you know what, take that shot if you want it. And you could kind of see even he was a little hesitant to take it. He had a couple times where he created space off a step back, but instead of taking the shot, he would pump fake and try to search for that foul, which one time did work. But other than that, he's kind of just getting, I don't want to say locked up because he had 35, but that's kind of their exact game plan. They said, SGA, you can do anything from the inside, just don't take it from the outside. He only made one 3-pointer all game. And then they just shut down every single other player because when you don't have to double SGA, it kind of gives you so much more freedom on the defensive end. So it was an unbelievable game, coached and played from the Spurs.
Yeah, I thought SG looked like his MVP self. I think to me that was the best he looked all series. You can't put the
Definitely.
loss on him. I know we could talk about a little bit if you want. The After the game he came out and he was like, that was this season was a failure to us. And I'll pose that question whether you agree or disagree in a little bit, but I thought SGA was on top of his game. I did think it was a much better performance from the officials. A lot of times you get into game 7 and you want to see one of the teams win. You don't want to see the officials take over, and I don't think they did. The one call where he jumped sideways into I think Vassell, that's got to be an
That was the
offensive
one. That
foul.
was the one bad one. That
Yeah,
was it.
that was bad, but we saw that happen multiple times over the course of some of the earlier games. So I thought the refs were better from that standpoint. But to me, and I know you were the one that kind of brought it up, how hard it is to win without your Robin as Batman. And I think we really realized that okay, Chet's not a number 2 scorer. Caruso was probably their second best player in this series until last night, where he was 3 of 14 from the field, 1
Yep.
of 6 from 3. If he gets going maybe a little bit, that could have been the key to victory for them, but he just wasn't as good as he was the rest of the series. To me, what I saw missing from this series was Cason Wallace. And he had 17 points last night, 14 of those in the fourth quarter, including 4 threes. But where was this guy the rest of the series? No Jalen Williams, no AJ Mitchell, and it felt like Cason Wallace was invisible. Maybe not as invisible as Chet Holmgren was at times, but Cason Wallace might be the best on-ball defender in the NBA. We saw him last night getting up into those guys, pressuring them, and it disturbed their offense. And then with the 4 threes, he kept them in the game in the fourth quarter. And I was like, man, this is the next step that I thought Cason Wallace was going to take. This is why teams are going to be bidding on him in free agency. And so to me, him having a great fourth quarter of a game 7 to keep the Thunder in it was kind of like, man, where has he been this whole time? And I don't think you can blame the loss on Caruso at all because that's not his role. He came in as a role player. He didn't come in as a scorer. And I think he was kind of playing above his ceiling, even maybe a little bit in
Yep.
the earlier games in this series. And so you look at it from that aspect, and you can hit the panic mode if you're the Thunder, but you're also without, your second best player, 2 of your top 5 scorers in AJ Mitchell and Jalen Williams. So I don't think it's time to panic. But other than that, it's on Chet Holmgren. It has to be. He took 2 shots in this game. He didn't shoot the ball in the second half, and he played 13 minutes. Besides game 1 and game 7, no other games really came down to the end in this series. It was kind of back and forth, teams winning by double digits. And in games 1 and game 7, Chet had 8 points and 4 points in a total of 9 shots. And that's just unacceptable for a guy who's third team All NBA. I know I personally don't agree with him being third team All NBA. I don't know about you, but for a guy who's in contention for it, nonetheless, that's just unacceptable. And I know that, Wemby's this unicorn, this alien that we've never seen before, but Chet wasn't even trying. Wemby wasn't even guarding Chet for more than half the game. And Chet still was just deferring to other guys. I mean, he looked invisible out there. It felt like you forgot that he was out there. He didn't shoot a single 3 yesterday, and his shot has just he doesn't seem confident in it. It's just really he honestly just looked not even checked out, just kind of lost. Like he didn't know what to do out there on the offensive end.
Yeah, I mean, it was very jarring for me, and I think for any Thunder fans, because it wasn't like some of the scenarios where you see with maybe Harden, where it's a lack of effort. I really do think he was giving it to you. I mean, on the defensive end, he was the same Chet Holmgren that we've gone used to love. He was rim protecting. It was just offensively, I don't want to say scared, but it looked like he was hesitating on a lot of the shots that he would normally take, or maybe going to his post moves that he would normally go to. And he was kind of just, I don't want to say trying to hide, but it almost seemed like he was kind of letting his teammates, like you said, defer to them, let them take the spotlight and trying to just not be the guy that made that mistake to lose in the game. So it's going to be a very interesting offseason. I don't know if you saw the soundbite that Shea gave us after the game. He said, we need Chet Holmgren. So he stood up for his teammate. One of the first times that I've really seen Shea like completely step into that leadership role, especially when times are hard. I mean, they haven't had much of that, but he knows that Chet's very, very needed, and it's just going to be up to Chet to really step up when the spotlight's the biggest and not, fade away.
Yeah, and he averaged 10.7 points, 8 rebounds, a little over a block, a little under an assist. He shot 48.6% from the field in this series, so it's not like his shooting numbers were terrible. But I think it was Reggie Miller on the broadcast last night. Maybe it was Jamal Crawford who said, "I'd rather have Checo 1 for 15 than 1 of 2." Like
Yep.
he needs to shoot the ball. He needs to make himself known. Even I think he'd be receiving less slack if he did go, I don't know about 1 for 15, but maybe 1 of 10 or something where it's like, man, he was being aggressive. He was taking good shots. He just couldn't get them to fall. But instead, he was completely invisible. And you mentioned Shea's soundbit after the game. I expect that from the back-to-back MVP to come back up as player. And this isn't me trying to attack Chet or take shots at Chet at all. I still think he's an unbelievable player. And I think that he's going to be a really good NBA player for years to come. It's just, it feels like he's met his one nemesis, and that nemesis he might see continually with a chance to get to the NBA Finals. So it's like we see all the time. We saw it when the Warriors and Cavs were so dominant. In the West, you built your roster to beat the Warriors, and in the East, you built your roster to beat LeBron and the Cavs. If you're the Thunder, you're building your roster to beat the Spurs. And is Chet Holmgren going to be in that equation if Wemby's just going to swallow him up like this every time? It's not really a shot on Chet. It's just Chet came into this league, and then Wemby is like a bigger and better Chet. And he can't really do anything when Wemby's guarding him because, their lower body deficiencies are kind of the same. And Wemby just has a longer wingspan. He's taller. He can shoot the ball better. So it's just like, yeah, Chet's going to be amazing during the regular season and in series, not against the Spurs. But if we're going to see this Western Conference Finals rematch like we think we're going to, can you just keep rolling Chet out there against Wemby and just coming up short? Like, it's a really tough scenario, I think, if you're the Thunder.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree, especially with the build the team to beat the Spurs. I mean, we saw it with the Timberwolves. It was build the team to beat the Nuggets, and they did exactly that. And it kind of looks like, hey, they can take down the Nuggets, who are debatably a top 1 to 3 team in the West every single year. But then outside of the Nuggets, it seems like they struggle. And for the Thunder, they do have to be built to beat the Spurs. And I know this guy's name has been floating around in almost every single trade talk, but Thunder have so much that they can give. Is it time to maybe give a call to the Bucks and maybe see Giannis? I mean, that's a big man. He is not going to get pushed around by Wemby. I can promise you that.
Yeah, and so I think we'll just talk a little bit about kind of maybe what the Thunder do moving forward here. We
Yep.
see Lou Dort has an $18.22 million team option. He was not very effective in this series. I think he peaked a few years ago. He came out, he had his coming out party in the bubble where he was
Yep.
famously guarding Harden. He was like all up in his grill, and the Thunder almost upset them. That was the Chris Paul Thunder. They almost upset the Rockets, and it's like, I don't know about you, but I was like, man, this Lou Dort's a fun
Yep.
story, but like a few years and he'll be out of the league. And now he's been able to stick with the Thunder for a while and make his name as guarding the best player on the other team. And he's expanded to an outside shot. But in this series, he did not shoot the ball well. He wasn't even playing much because he doesn't give them anything else on the offensive end aside from catch and shoot threes. And I think the San Antonio guards were a little too quick for him, where he wasn't even picking up the best player every possession and being able to D him up. And we mentioned beating the Spurs, but it's hard to be, a 3 and D guy for that long in this league. We see so many of them, and his three-pointer is not up there with the best of the 3-and-D guys, and his defense, I think, has taken a little bit of a step back even. So if you're the Thunder, can you just come? I don't like it's not wrong to run back the same team because you're missing two of your best players. But at the same time, you look, okay, where can we, switch things up? Where, can we win the slight battles? And I think you have to take a look in the mirror and say, okay, is Lou Dort as valuable to this team? And I know it's Shea's guy. They played on Team Canada together, and I don't know. Maybe he's somebody you can keep off the bench, but I would not be shocked if the Thunder declined his team option and he became a free agent.
Yeah, I mean, neither would I. They have so many options. Now, when it does come to the Thunder, I would be very cognizant of, knowing that Jalen Williams did not play at all in the series pretty much. And when he did play, he was probably a net negative for them. And that was just because he was injured. So I wouldn't make any big moves. The Lou Dort question, that is a man that I would probably let walk. Because like you said, he's a 3-and-D guy, but as of right now, he's a 3-and-D guy that can't shoot the three. And when it comes to the Spurs, he cannot really defend to the level that he's used to. So that was a massive problem. I mean, this series, I believe he shot under 20% from the 3-point range, which is a serious problem because he's not going to create any shots for himself. He's not going to go ISO and make a move around a guy. Maybe in transition, he can do a little bit of that Josh Hart-esque, but I wouldn't say anything like that because Josh Hart is such an unbelievable passer out of transition. So he's really going to have to learn to adapt his game or he's going to get pushed out. However, for the Thunder, I don't think that's the biggest worry for them. They have so many substitutes. I mean, they have Kenrich Williams, which they can sub in. Jalen Williams, now he didn't play great in Game 6. However, I thought he was fantastic for Game 7. He was hitting the shots that he was taking. He was defending very well, and he was giving them kind of the extra effort. I mean, multiple offensive rebounds, extra possessions that they weren't expecting. So you have other guys that you can kind of plug and place with Lou Dort. And when it comes to salary cap, they're already $90 million over that salary cap. So you're going to have to find someone to let go. You can't keep everyone. And as much as it must suck to say, because he played such a pivotal role in that winning that championship and he kind of grew up with them, but it may be time to let him walk. However, with the whole Chet detail, as much as we have been kind of giving him, slack, I would keep him around for at least 1 to 2 more years, even if it's going to cost you a pretty penny, just because you do have to be aware of the fact that you didn't have your big three, and you still went to Game 7 with the Spurs. Now, with that being said, the Spurs are only going to get better because they're such a young team, but you didn't have your second best player on the team, and that's a big deal. So I would keep them around for 1 more year. Lou Dort, I think you can probably let walk. I don't think that's the biggest deal.
Yeah, I think letting Lou Dort walk is something they should do. And then I think, I don't know if it's finding a trade package or maybe just exploring what the market looks like for guys like Hartenstein and the tall Jalen Williams, not J-Dub, just because I didn't think those guys were bad in this series. I thought they gave him great moments. Like you mentioned, I thought Jalen Williams was very good last night. I just think, you look at the Spurs and Wembanyama's their best player, and also Jokic is in the West. So if Chet's going to be, invisible against a guy like Wemby, you're going to have to find some more front court depth. And I think that's where maybe you just try to play in the margins a little bit and see, okay, can we add a better backup center? Can we add some more height? Can we add just straight up somebody who's going to be on the roster just to stop Wembanyama? I think that's where you look to add the biggest because, like you mentioned, they have so much of the scoring that was just hurt, and they still took the Spurs to a Game 7. And I think they're so deep and such a good regular season team that I see them continuing to get the 1 seed as we go forward over San Antonio in years to come because of their
Yep.
proven regular season success, which would give them home court. So I think running it back is not a bad option at all. I think just some moves in the margins is really what they need to address.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. I definitely think you stick around with that same team and try to win it all next year. I mean, they went into the season pretty heavy favorites. So I can't imagine a world where they don't line up with the exact same rotation and run it back.
Yeah, and they started off the postseason 8-0, and that's the first back-to-back losses of the postseason for them since the Western Conference Finals in 2024, where Luka and the Mavs beat them in games 5 and 6 to go to the NBA Finals. But that's enough talk about the Thunder who are eliminated. It's time for an NBA Finals preview between the New York Knicks, who are back in the finals for the first time since 1999. There's the background. You guys see it. And the San Antonio Spurs back in the finals for the first time since 2014 when that trio of Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, Tim Duncan, and the young and upcoming Kawhi Leonard led them to a victory over the Miami Heat. Initial thoughts, initial predictions. Just what do you think about this series? I think it's going to be a really good series, and I think it's going to be great viewership. I think this is really good for the NBA with the New York market and Wembanyama playing in the NBA Finals.
I could not agree more with everything you just said. And first of all, I'd like to give a shout out to Kat. I don't know if you saw this, but actually, the very first game that Karl Anthony Towns suited up for the Knicks, he came in there wearing a 1999 New York Knicks Finals T-shirt,
Did
kind
not
of
see that.
hinting at a little bit, hey, we're gonna get back there. And what did he do? Just a couple of years later, they got back there. So respect to Cat. That was awesome to see. But yeah, I think this series is going to be unbelievable. I don't think the Spurs are going to run away with this just because they came out of the West and they're the more proven team at all. And funny enough, I don't think with two massive names like Jalen Brunson and Victor Wembanyama, I don't think this series is going to be about the superstars at all, if I'm being honest. Not at all, sorry. That was a stretch. But I don't think it's going to be about them. Not where, in past series, maybe it was about Wemby, maybe it was about Jalen Brunson. I don't think this one will be. I think it'll be about the role players. So I think it's going to be awesome to see maybe how OG and Anobi, how Mikal Bridges step up, how Dylan Harper play, how Stephon Castle. Now, maybe those are upper tier role players, but you get what I mean. I don't think it's going to be about the 1 and 2 in this series. So I'm super excited to see that.
Yeah, I think, that's a valid take, and I think we kind of saw that towards the end of the Thunder series for the Spurs. And for the Knicks, it's like two teams who are on completely polar opposite like sides of the spectrum when it comes to rest, when it comes to just like what they've gone through to get here in the playoffs. I mean, the Knicks faced some adversity early in the 2-1 deficit against Atlanta. And since then, they've won 11 straight games, and this team is scorching hot from the field. They've been playing great defense. They've been buying the tickets to opposing teams' arenas, and it's been like a home game for the Knicks everywhere they go. One quick thing I will say on that: don't expect this to feel like a Knicks home game in San Antonio. Those fans love their basketball, and they're not selling their tickets to people with New York area codes. I can promise you that. But I think this series starts off in favor of San Antonio because when you look at what happened with the Knicks and the Cavs, right? The Cavs back-to-back 7-game series. The Knicks coming off a sweep against the 76ers. And the Cavs were able to build a 22-point lead. I think rest versus rust is a real thing, and I think it actually favors the team who is more recovered, or excuse me, who has played more recently. I think the
I
Spurs
agree.
the Spurs have been playing every other day for the last 7 days, so it's not like they're just going to be gassed. This is the first time they've had 3 full days off, I believe, since the NBA playoffs started. So from that aspect, that is going to be massive for the Spurs to finally get some rest. De'Aaron Fox and Dylan Harper both banged up. The fact that the finals isn't every other day will also, as the series goes on, I think allow them to slowly get a little bit healthier. But going back to my original point, you saw the Cavs who had, I think it was just 1 day off, might have been 2 in between that Knicks series, versus the Knicks who had over a week off after dismantling, blowing the doors off the Sixers. And the Knicks came out rusty. They didn't shoot it like they have been shooting at this playoffs, and it allowed the Cavs to build a very big advantage. I don't think this is a bold prediction, but if the San Antonio Spurs are up 22 with 7.5 minutes left, I think it's safe to say that they're not going to lose like the Cavs. But I mean, the Cavs were so close from just winning game one because of that. And not only that, but the Knicks are going to have to travel to San Antonio. I think San Antonio has a massive edge in game one, not even in the series, but just in game one based off that.
Yeah, I'd like to touch on a couple things you said. First of all, with that rest versus rust, I 100% agree. I do think the rust kicks in more than people think, and I don't think the rest is that necessary, especially when the team that doesn't get the rest is the Spurs. They're the youngest team to ever make the NBA Finals, so I don't think they're very worried about how much rest they're getting. And in terms of the Cavs, you could argue, well, they gave up 22, and that was in the fourth quarter. Two things against that. One, they're a much older team. I mean, there's a guy like by the name of James Harden who was maybe solely responsible for that defensive collapse. And then second of all, you're dealing with two very sagacious coaches in these finals. You don't have a Kenny Atkinson who could just blow the doors open and, kind of let a team walk back into it, but down 22. I promise you Mitch Johnson is not doing that. And I promise you even more, Victor Wembanyama has way too much pride to let that happen. One thing I can't wait to see is how Wemby against these two bigger bigs is going to pan out. We saw last series what was it, game two or game three, where they had Hartenstein on Wemby for a large majority of it, and you could see it took a toll on him. Not only in that game, but in the next game, Wemby came out flat-footed. He came out looking like he very lethargic, as if he had no energy, and they kind of got punked that game. So it's going to be interesting. He doesn't get any time off because I know he's not the biggest guy ever, but Chet is even smaller. So when you're going one-on-one against someone that much smaller than you, or even the same size, it's a big difference compared to when you're going against Cat, he's a thick man, and then Mitchell Robinson, who's just straight up strong. I think it's going to be very pernicious for him, and I can't wait to see what's going to affect him in those later games because I do think this series is going to go at least six. So it's going to be interesting to see how Wemby shows up in maybe games 4 and 5 after the constant tugging from Mitchell Robinson and Karl-Anthony Towns. And then maybe even OG Anunoby. I mean, obviously he's not as tall, but that's a strong dude. So you're not going to budge him very easily. So I'm very excited to see that.
Yeah, two things about the Bigs matchup. First of all, we heard the injury news with Mitchell Robinson. I think he's got a broken pinky, it was, and he's going to
On
be
his
playing through
left hand.
that. It was on his left hand. I will say, if you told me to pick a player in the NBA Finals who couldn't be less affected by a broken pinky, it would be Mitchell Robinson. I mean,
Yeah.
the dude doesn't take threes. It's his free throws can't get that much worse than they already
No.
are, and he's known for his defense and his rolls to the rim and his dunks and putbacks. A broken pinky is going to affect your ball handling and your shooting more than it is any of those things. So for me, yeah, maybe he'll be playing through a little pain in his pinky, but other than that, I mean, it's not like, oh, suck it up. It's just I just don't think this really affects his game at all. Yeah, maybe if Brunson broke his pinky, I'd be more concerned. But for Robinson, it's like it's not really going to affect him. The thing for me is the Knicks have two unique bigs who are so different from each other. Where'd you see the Thunder attack the Spurs and have success when Jalen Williams subbed in and was able to stretch Wembanyama out? He had trouble covering Jalen Williams to the 3-point arc, and we saw Jalen Williams get open for some threes, which is what Cat's going to do. He's going to play on the perimeter, and he's going to suck Wemby out of the paint, which is how you attack and beat the Spurs, is you get them out of the paint, and then you can attack because if he's just sitting in the paint, it's so much harder to score on the Spurs. However, on the defensive end, Mitchell Robinson is so much more well-suited to guard Wemby. So it's almost like if these two could just sub in at half court for each other on offense and defense, if you could just play Cat on offense and Robinson on defense, that would literally be perfect. But I'm interested to see how they mix and match their minutes because I think Cat, if you're going to build a player to beat Wemby at the center position, you build Cat. And if you're going to beat someone to guard him on defense, I think you build Mitchell Robinson. So I'm really interested to see how they kind of split the minutes because I'm assuming they're not going to go with the double big lineup. They could experiment with that maybe, but I don't think they're going to play too much of that. It's just so interesting to me. I think that's going to be the tail of the tape for this NBA Finals is just what do the minutes look like between those two? Because, I mean, you need Cat out there for his offense to get Wemby away from the rim, but can Cat really guard Wembanyama? I don't really think so.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. I can't imagine we see the Twin Towers look very much, just due to the fact that they're too big. They're not going to be quick enough for the Spurs team. I mean, they'll just blow right by them.
If we see the Twin Towers,
And
we might see French Vanilla out there.
then, sorry. And then, second of all, Conley Towns stretching Wemby outside of the paint is not only going to affect his game in terms of Cat being open to shoot the three, which he loves doing, but it's also going to affect, Jalen Brunson's ability to attack the paint. Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, all those guys are going to have a much easier time attacking the paint when Wemby's worried about Cat outside of the three-point line. So I can't wait for it personally, and I'd love to hear your prediction. I know we're still a couple days out, but give me the games and give me who wins.
Yeah, so I am taking the Knicks in 6 games, actually. I don't know why. My hot take a couple weeks ago on our first episode was that, the West is going to win the next 5 games. Just something about this New York Knicks team, I can't lie, is kind of frustrating me. Just everyone just like, oh, the Knicks, they've been on this monstrous run. This is the greatest postseason team of all time. No, that was the 2017 Warriors. Let's be honest. But yeah, I actually think the Knicks are going to win in 6, and I think they'll close it out at home. But honestly, no result in this NBA Finals is really going to surprise me that much. I want to touch on one more thing about the game, and that is how is Jalen Brunson going to hold up on the defensive end of things? When you look at their last two matchups, they played two teams for the 76ers and the Cavs who, for lack of better terms and explanation, they kind of gave up. And they didn't, I mean, you saw the one clip of Jalen Brunson where he just dribbled to the left elbow and then everyone just stopped guarding him and he just went and laid it in. The Spurs might be the one team, except aside from the Thunder, who play harder than the Knicks or who have the potential to play harder than the Knicks. It felt like the Knicks just came into those two series and said, we're just going to play harder than you and we're going to win because of that. Whereas nobody plays harder in the NBA than Stephon Castle. I mean, that dude gives it his all every time he's on the court. And it was
Russell
pretty,
Westbrook.
all right. And it was pretty easy to hide Brunson, against the Cavs and against even the Sixers a little bit, where I don't think it's going to be easier to hide him. And also on offense, he's going to be going up against De'Aaron Fox, Dylan Harper, Stephon Castle, Devin Vassell, Julian Champagnie are probably the guys he's going to see the most. Obviously, he's not going to see all five of them equally, but those guys can all play defense, and they're all going to try on defense. It's not just going to be, hey, Harden's guy, come set me a screen and let me ISO on James Harden. Like, this is going to be the hardest he's going to have to work to score the ball all postseason, and I'm interested to see what it looks like if Brunson has an off game or if they decide to double team him like they did Shea and take the ball out of his hands. Who else is going to step up? Because the Spurs are so good, not only on offense, but there's not really a weak link on defense on their team like the Knicks have been able to exploit in prior series.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how Mike Brown kind of attacks this game. I think it's going to be a lot of off-ball movement from Jalen Brunson, kind of off screens, trying to get him open. Because, like you said, you can't attack a CJ McCollum, you can't attack a James Harden. Then defensively, it's going to be a long night for Jalen Brunson every single time. I mean, not only can every single one of these Spurs guards score, but they are so quick. And not that big body Brunson isn't the quickest man ever, but he's not the fastest man ever. So, like I'm saying, he's not the quickest dude ever, but he better hope the quickest dude doesn't die. And he's not going to be able to guard De'Aaron Fox outside. He's not going to be able to guard Stephon Castle in transition. So I can't wait to see how that pans out. And not only that, but Jalen Brunson being constantly attacked on the defensive end, that's only going to take a toll on his offensive game. If they're going at you, we saw this in the past with Luka Doncic. When teams constantly attacked them, it made them kind of not shy away from the offensive end, but it made them struggle straight up because you just don't have the energy. If people are putting you in their plans and plays every single time, I mean, you're just simply not going to have the same amount of gas in your tank. That's just how it works. That's science. So Jalen Brunson's going to have to suck it up. He's going to have to learn how to play some good defense because the Spurs have some really good guards, and I don't know if he's going to be able to do that. I was extremely surprised that you chose the Knicks, if I'm being completely honest with you. However, funny enough, I didn't choose his background for no reason. The Knicks have been playing unbelievable basketball. They've won 10 straight, and I'm also picking the Knicks. I do think it'll go 7 again. But the fact that we both have the Knicks was a complete shocker to me. So we could be making fools out of ourselves in about a week or two here.
Yeah, and I'm picking the Knicks in 6 just because something magical about them wrapping it up at home at MSG would just be cinema if you're a Knicks fan. I just think these teams are so well matched up, and I mean, you looked at it, the Knicks series was over like a month ago or whatever it feels like, and we were like, okay, who's the better matchup, the Thunder and the Spurs? And I think we both agreed, and kind of the NBA community in general just agreed that the Knicks match up better against the Spurs than they did against the Thunder. And so I think these teams are really evenly matched. And so for me, I'm going to pick the team that's riding high, who seems like it has the vibes, who seems like it has the storyline. And that's ultimately why I'm going with the Knicks. But anywhere from Spurs in 6 to Spurs in 7 to Knicks in 7 to Knicks in 6, I do think this is going to be a lengthy series, but none of those results would surprise me. All right, now we have our second official stand on it take. I am up yet again, guys. Cole will be up next time, don't worry. But my official stand on it for today's episode is if, and I'm going to have to throw the if in there because I just picked the Knicks in 6. If the Spurs win the NBA Finals, Victor Wembanyama will not be the Finals MVP. That award will belong to Stephon Castle. Let me hear your thoughts.
What you just said, everything you just said was complete nonsense. That is so nonsense. Like, what? No Victor Wembanyama if the Spurs win. That makes no sense. We haven't seen either a 1A or 1B guy not win the Finals MVP in the last couple of decades outside of one example. And maybe you were thinking of it, maybe you thought of it, but I immediately thought of this, and this is Andre Iguodala,
He did
which
not
he
deserve it.
doesn't
I'm
even count.
sorry.
Andre Iguodala was the one outlier, which I mean that in itself was complete asinine. I actually have the numbers. So when Iguodala won Finals MVP, he averaged 8 points a game, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists. And the only reason he won Finals MVP is because he was given the matchup of LeBron James, and he held LeBron James to these really terrible numbers of 36, 13, and 9 a game. That's how he was awarded the Finals MVP, which I thought was terrible for the league. It got terrible backlash. Nobody liked it. Everyone known it should have went to Stephen Curry, and I just can't see a way that the Spurs come out on top and Wemby doesn't get it again, unless NBA media just goes up in flames. And I love Stephon Castle because I love players that give it 110% every single night. I mean, it's hard to cheer for Russell Westbrook unless that's your reason why. So Stephon Castle, I got nothing bad to say about him. But Victor Wembanyama is the best player. And when it comes to the Spurs team, in my opinion, there's no one B guy. I truly believe that. I believe there's a one, straight up a one, and then there's those couple next guys. Like some nights it's De'Aaron Fox, some nights it's Stephon Castle, some nights it's Dylan Harper. So I just don't think he's going to be that one B or one A guy consistently night in and night out to where people think that he actually deserves the Finals MVP. So I don't know how you strung that sentence together, but congrats on doing that because I would have
So,
probably thrown up.
what if I told you the fate of the universe was on the line? Are you taking Curry still as the finals MVP? Because, Max Kellerman said it best. I want Iguodala. But
Fate of the universe, I'm taking Iggy. But
I'm
when it
taking
comes to Finals
Castle.
MVP, no, you're not.
But just going back to that real quick, anybody who watched the series saw that they were just doubling Steph Curry the whole game, and that's the reason the Warriors' offense was what it was. I mean, it was a 4-on-3 with Draymond leading the charge because they were just doubling Steph, and his stats were still pretty solid. So that was just complete. I don't even know anarchy that
Yeah,
he
it
went
was it
that
was
year.
nonsensical. It made absolutely no sense.
Yeah, it was like, man, he did a good job on LeBron, and it was like LeBron was without Kyrie and Kevin Love and still put up those numbers. I'm not trying to throw shade at Iggy. I love him, but I just don't think he should have been the Finals MVP. But to me, getting back to my original take, you look at Game 6 and Game 7. Yes, I know Wemby still led the Spurs in scoring last night, but it was a much more balanced attack. And you said it yourself that you think this series is going to be about the other guys and not about the star players. So going based off of that, that is where I see. I do think it's going to be tough, and it was honestly hard for me to predict who to give it to. I think Stephon Castle is the Spurs' second best player, but it's not a clear
I'd
1A
agree.
and 1B. You saw his assist numbers remain pretty high when De'Aaron Fox came back and his turnovers went way down. So if he's able to carry that over, we know Stephon Castle's going to attack. We know he's not going to shoot 2 shots and not take a shot in the second half. We know he's going to continually get his shots up. He's going to shoot threes, and he's been shooting it at a decent clip in these playoffs. So I think that's what makes it possible for him to win Finals MVP. And I just think so much of the Knicks' energy and concentration is going to be on Wembanyama that if Castle can get some Brunson matchups here and there and attack him, I think his stats are going to be good enough. I mean, let's be honest, the NBA community wants to give, and whoever decides the Finals MVP, they want him to give it to Wembanyama. They're trying to make him the face of the NBA. Don't get me wrong, but I just think the blueprint for Game 6 and Game 7 is going to hold true for this series. That if the Spurs win, it's going to be somebody else other than Wembanyama, maybe who deserves it. Even if Stephon Castle's stats are better, I feel like they're going to give it to Wemby. But my bold prediction: Stephon Castle is your Finals MVP if the Spurs win.
Listen, if you truly believe that in your heart, I'm telling you right now, I know you're not a gambling man. Go on your next bookie and put some money down on that. I just searched it up. He's got plus 8,000 odds of becoming your next Finals MVP, and I have to agree with those odds. I just don't see a way in which they said. I mean, you said it best themselves. The NBA wants it to be Wemby. They want it to be Wemby or Brunson. I'm pretty sure they'd more like it to be Wemby, which means if the Spurs win, Stephon Castle is going to have to do something like out of this world to be given even a shot at winning that. Like, I don't know, maybe like a game 6 or game 7 buzzer beater. That's the only way I can imagine it going to Stephon Castle.
Yeah, can you read off the rest of those odds real quick? I don't know if you have them pulled up. I'm honestly very curious who is the third best odds after Wemby and Brunson. If it is Castle or if they're giving it to somebody else. Maybe Cat.
Yeah, so Victor Wembanyama has the highest odds, and then it goes to Jalen Brunson, then Carl Anthony Towns, and next OG Anunoby. So
They're
there's a
giving it
few
to
Knicks guys. There's 3 to 4 Knicks
giving
guys before
OG a
Stephon
better
Castle.
chance than I don't know about that.
I mean, OG's played unbelievably these playoffs. No knock on him. He's averaged near 20 points a game. One of their best defenders night in and night out. So I can't take that away from him, as well as the fact that I do think when it comes to the Knicks, while Brunson carries the heaviest load, I don't think the league is as scared to give it to someone other than Brunson. Where when Wemby, if the Spurs win, I agree with you. They're not going to give it to anyone other than Wemby. He's the face of the league. They want him to be the face of the league. They're pushing the narrative so hard. So yeah, there's a few Knicks players before they give it to Stephon Castle.
Yeah, well, just remember to come back to this segment when Stephon Castle is holding up Finals MVP.
Yeah, I'll come back and you'll be a very rich man. So congratulations on that.
All right, that'll do it for Stand On, and that'll do it for episode 3. Make sure you guys follow us on all our socials. We're hoping to have Will back for the next episode, but be sure to keep up
Sleepy
with our
boy.
TikToks. We got some very interesting ones coming out this week, and enjoy the NBA Finals. I know we won't be recording before Game 1. We'll try to get an episode out to you guys post Game 1 before Game 2 tips off. Cole, any last words?
No, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time.